There's been a lot of films released in 2021, so let's talk about my top 10 favourite films. So this year I've been watching a lot of films, be it new releases or classics that I completely missed. And as a recording, according to Letterboxd, I've watched 163 films this year, which is pretty good going really. Before we get into this, I want to highlight that I've seen a lot of films, but I've not seen every film. You know, there's some that I know lots of people mention, I've not been able to access them, or they've been at, cinemas that I can't reach, or on platforms that I can't reach. So this is what I've seen, just remember that. This is the films that I've seen. So let's get into the list. So in at number 10, we have James Samuel's The Harder They Fall. I'm not a massive fan of westerns, however this one really stuck with me. What I loved about this film was James Samuel's sort of homage to westerns, as well as creating his own sort of path within that genre. With a great cast and excellent performances, I think this was a really stylistic film that really stood out in this year for me. So in at number 9, we have The Hand of God. Now I didn't see this film till quite late on in this year, but saying that, I really enjoyed it. I think it has real heart, it's really comedic, and I love the landscape of Italy. They really captured that in this film. So that's why it's at number 9 for me. So in at number 8, we have The Green Knight. This is a film that I know a lot of people are anticipating, especially due to its delayed release in the UK. So when it was available on Amazon, I made sure I checked that one out. And I thought the cinematography was beautiful. There were excellent performances in this film. It's a film that, upon first watch, I wasn't sort of massively taken by it, but upon reflection, looking into more of the story, and rewatching it, I definitely fell in love with this film. At number 7, we had King Richard. The reason this isn't number 7 for me is I found it to be a really engaging biopic, one that I could definitely watch again and again. I think there's excellent performances, especially from a lot of the female cast, and a lot of people are hyping Will Smith, but I think a lot of the female actors within this film are doing an excellent job. Even if you're not massively into tennis, I would highly recommend this film, and if you can check it out, please do. So in at number 6, we have The Last Night in Soho. I was able to see this at the London Film Festival earlier this year, and what a way to kick off my festival. Edgar Wright is so cinematic with this film. The cinematography, the lighting, the performances, the costumes, everything was delightful. The story wasn't perfect, however I had such a good experience with this film, that's why it's in my top 10. So in at number 5, we have The Dig. Do you remember that film all the way back at the beginning of the year? Yeah, that was this year. This film was a cinematic delight. I think it's some of the best cinematography of the year. I think it was so creative, and I found it really, really beautiful story, really engaging. I loved the sort of era it was set in, the costumes, the colour palettes, everything was delightful. And just like some of the films I've mentioned previously, it wasn't perfect. It turned into a bit more of a romantic story for me at the end, and I didn't really like that as much. But the first 2/3 of the film was beautiful, and I could study every frame in that film. So in at number 4 is Dune. This is probably my favourite blockbuster cinema experience that I had this year. Obviously it was delayed and was supposed to come out in 2020, so I was excited for this one to come out anyway. I had no idea about the story going into this film. I had never read the books. I had no idea what it was really about, besides from the trailers, and I really enjoyed it. I think it's one of the most exciting and attainable sort of introductions into a franchise of films. The world was so absorbing, the performances were excellent from everyone, and the soundtrack is one of my favourite scores of the whole year. Hans Zimmer has done it. He has absolutely smashed it out of the park. I thought this was the best soundtrack of the year and my 4th favourite film of 2021. So we're into top 3 now, and my 3rd favourite film of the year was The Map of Tiny Perfect Things. I've been banging on about this film a lot this year. I've talked about a lot about time loop films and my sort of love of that. And this was a film again that came out really early in the year, released online, and I just fell upon this film, this sort of hidden gem, and I thought it was beautiful, and I watched it after Palm Springs. However, I found this one sort of stuck with me in a different way. Palm Springs is funny, yes, and has an interesting concept, but The Map of Tiny Perfect Things has something much more sort of grounded, and I like the world that it's set up already. Compared to Palm Springs. So that's why it's my top 3. So in at number 2, we have The Mitchells versus the Machines. I'm sure many people have mentioned this film on their list. It's one of my favourite animations in a long time. I thought it was creative, witty. I just loved the story of it. I think it was excellent, and it had me, audibly laughing all the way through. And I loved the art style. I thought it was really, really creative, especially from the designers who did Into the Spider-Verse. I think they were able to carry that over in this film and make it really creative and really eye-catching, as well as being funny and a good story. So I bet you're all wondering, what is your favourite film of the year? What is your number 1 this year? And for me, it was a film that I saw at the London Film Festival. Had no idea what it was about. I'd only seen a poster, no idea who was in it, what language it was in, nothing. And for that reason, my favourite film is Titane. Titane was an excellent cinematic experience, knowing nothing, and I think a lot of people going into it knew nothing, and hearing those audible gasps, laughs, shock, all those reactions made for such a wonderful experience. Obviously the film itself was brilliant in terms of character, story, cinematography, lighting, music. It was really such an adventure with these characters and sort of how they developed over the time of the film and who they were as people and the acceptance of it all. This has been my favourite film since September, and it's been hard to knock it off that top spot, but it's managed to stay there, and I will continue to recommend it to people. Now it's out in the cinema in the UK. Please go and watch it and let me know your thoughts, because it's one of my favourites. We can't do a top 10 film list without talking about some of my least favourites, and there's not too many, but the ones that I think are bad were pretty bad. So some of my least favourite films of the year was the Fear Street trilogy. Those 3 films that were released on Netflix. Did not enjoy those, unfortunately. So the second film we have on that list is The Army of the Dead. You can go and check out the video and see my sort of full thoughts, but I was not a fan of Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead. The third one on that list is Cinderella. Did not enjoy that either. I knew I wasn't going to enjoy it as I was going into it. I was completely right not to enjoy this film. 2021 has seen a lot of films, and there's been some really good films that have been very consistent. We have things like The Last Duel, Spider-Man, Power of the Dog, French Dispatch, Black Widow, Candyman, King Richard, Hand of God, Dune, Last Night in Soho, Eternals, Don't Look Up, Tick Tick Boom. There's been really great films coming out this year, and I think it just shows that there's still a drive for cinema, there's still a drive to see films and, absorb all this wonderful media. And I think, yeah, it's been a great year for film, and there's been some bad films as well. So here's to 2022. So there you have it. There's my top 10 films of 2021. If you have any similar choices or you completely disagree with what I've put in my top 10, do let me know in the comments, and I'd love to check those out, because I'm sure everyone's got a different list for the films that they've loved this year. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next year in 2022 for some more popcorn chat.